I will start the introductions and all those good things, and we'll get started with the main content in a few seconds here. So let's give people time to join in. Firstly, thank you for joining us today. This is a joint WIA ASHB webinar, and I'll explain that in a minute. My name is Ian Gillett, and I'm VP of Innovation and Technology for the WIA, and I'm playing moderator today. Four panelists today, Steve and Brian, Jerry and Marcus. We were all just admiring our backgrounds, and we decided that Marcus wins. That is pretty cool. Anyway, we'll go through some formal introductions in a minute. So before we get into this, I want to explain a little bit about, we've got two audiences today. What we're doing here is a joint webinar. So we've got an audience from WIA and a couple of speakers from WIA, and we've got an audience from ASHB and a couple of speakers from ASHB. And so we're going to try and talk today about common, common issues, common opportunities, common lessons learned, all those good things. Okay. The WIA is the Wireless Infrastructure Association, and that represents the businesses that build, develop, own, and operate the nation's wireless infrastructure. The WIA advocates for the widespread responsible deployment of wireless infrastructure to enable connectivity everywhere. And yes, I was reading that off my separate screen. And ASHB is the Association of Smarter Homes and Buildings, and basically supporting smart buildings and homes market since 1988. So ASHB is led by Greg Walker, and I should thank Greg and Marta, his team, for helping us put together this webinar. On our side, it's been myself and Tracy Ford, who's VP of Member Services. And the ASHB team works closely with a dedicated team of staff and industry volunteers to deliver high-impact research, thought leadership, collaborative programs that advance innovation across the smart buildings and connected homes industry. And one of the first questions I have, which we'll get into in a minute, is what is a smart building? So we'll start with that. So a few technical points. Obviously, you're coming through the computer today. If you turn up the volume on your computer, it will get louder. We are recording the webinar today. We will have the recording available in a day or two as an archive. We will also put a summary report together, which you'll get details of. We will be taking questions today. And the best way to answer questions is through the Q&A tab on the top of your screen there. You can also put them in the chat if you like. I'll keep an eye on them as we go through. If there's any that are applicable to what we're talking about at that time, I'll work them in. Otherwise, we'll leave some time at the end for the Q&A. All right, with that, firstly, introductions. And Jerry, you're going to go first on this one. Sure. Just to let you know, who are you? What do you do? What does your company do? And how do you define a smart building?
Well, with 1 minute to go, I'll make it sharp. So great to be here. Jerry Brown, I head up commercial real estate vertical market for Siemens, which encompasses not only Class A, B, C, and multi-use type offerings, but also hospitality, convention centers, museums, and such as that, so across the U.S. The fun part of my job is bringing the value of digitalization and making more buildings smart where they may not be today. So that's the fun and what I get to do in working with a team of 60 offices around the U.S. to make that happen. A smart building, there's various definitions, but it's one where it's not just come in the morning, flip the switches, but you want that stuff to be done before people get there on time, appropriately efficient, watching out for trend data, and really connecting all the building envelope and power into the building to make it more efficient, safe, and increase tenant satisfaction is one definition. So a lot to it in that definition. So I'll pass it along.
Okay, great. Brian?
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Ian. Great to be here. Thanks everybody for joining. Yeah, I'm the Vice President of Sales for Nextivity for the Americas, and also I'm the board chair for ASHB. So it's really near and dear to my heart that the WA is working here with ASHB on this. So I've been 3 years with the ASHB organization. Also, I'm past president of Bixie, so I've been around associations and connectivity and structured cabling for the last 33 years. Hard to believe it's flown by so quick. But now for the last year and a half, I've been with Nextivity and playing in the wireless side of connectivity, which has been a lot of fun and a lot of great things going on there for sure. So yeah, what we do in Nextivity is in-building cellular connectivity. And also public safety component of the in-building cellular, and we'll start looking at ERC systems and those type of things. But we also do private 5G, private LTE, IoT sensing off the DAS network. So very near dear to my heart. And through my transition from cabling, fiber and copper to wireless over the years, and to how important it is to that smart building infrastructure. So for me, smart buildings, I've been hanging around that topic, smart buildings, smart cities, for the last, seems like many years, 15, 20 years when I first really started, POE lighting, all these great things that come with that. For me in a smart building, it's really getting that building to be smarter. Smart can be one definition, but I like to look at it as making it smarter from wherever it started from, and allowing it to be more predictive in nature and allowing it to be more automatic in how it does processes and efficiencies. And a quick example I give is a hotel in Fort Worth, Texas, where the longer term goal to make it truly smart is when you as a guest walk in this Marriott, it knows you're walking in because of your device, and it automatically checks you into your favorite room. When you get in your room, automatically sets your temperature, favorite TV stations, all those great things. And if you want to drink at the bar, you go to the bar and your drink is ready for you. So that is truly a predictive environment. So that's how I see a smart building.
Okay. And I think when you mentioned you've been in the industry 33 years, we were all supposed to say, gosh, Brian, you look so young.
I was waiting for that.
You must have started when you were 5 or something. And nobody said anything. You noticed that. I just
well, you get plenty points to me, so thank you.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just the moderator here, Brian. Okay. Marcus.
Thanks, Ian. Yeah, I'm Marcus Elson, Senior Product Manager in Train Commercial, working at the intersection of our controls and digital portfolios. And Train, as you know, makes a variety of solutions across the spectrum for commercial buildings. Most notably, I think here, smart building applications and tailored solutions for customers. My definition of a smart building that I like is, I think, pretty simple. It is a building that has delivers more value than the sum of its parts. Buildings have lots of different systems, lots of different people working in there, and the technology can be that way that they all work better to even greater outcomes.
That's good. Short and sweet. I like that one. Okay, Stephen.
Great. Thanks, Ian. Yeah, thanks for having me on this panel here. I'm Stephen Leotis. I'm the president and co-founder of Moso Networks. We build private 5G infrastructure. This includes the radios, software management platform, other switching hardware, that build the private 5G wireless infrastructure for enterprise and smart building environments. So our focus is making private 5G simple and cost-effective to deploy. So think about it as simple as deploying a Wi-Fi access point in the building, except we're delivering performance, security, and reliability of a carrier-grade cellular network. So for a definition of smart building, I like to think about it as where you're bringing the physical environment, the digital layer, and it's truly integrated together. So connecting sensors, cameras, HVAC, access controls, logistics systems, and that customer experience, and taking all that data we're generating, make sure they're all talking to each other to improve efficiency, safety, and of course the consumer outcomes. And we truly believe that the wireless network is the foundation for this, and that's really where Moso lives.
Okay, great. I'm not sure I have one. I was thinking about this question actually for a smart, and I decided that my kids, who are old and very well educated, would say, well, Dad, it's when we're in the building, it's smart. Yeah. At some point, it has to be the people in the building as well. So I guess you've got to connect those as well. So, all right, let's start off. I want to start with where we are today. Let's start with a couple of case studies. So I'm looking at this in kind of two halves. So Jerry and Marcus have got the applications, they've got the stuff, the buildings that we're making smart here. So from their perspective, look at, how does it work? What does it do? What's the main application? What's the main problem being addressed? And then Stephen and Brian have got the network connectivity piece that kind of glues this all together and enabling the applications or the solution. So what I thought we'd do is, Marcus, I'll let you go first, then Stephen, then Jerry, and then Brian. So, and give an application, what it does, etc., as we said, and then Stephen can talk about, okay, here's what a network would look like for that, and kind of, can give the complete picture here. So Marcus, give us an idea of what you're talking about.
Sure. So I'll talk about what we call Train AI Control. This application looks at how a building runs, looks at parameters that the customer has set in terms of comfort or operating hours. And it develops a model of how that building runs and a model of the expected energy consumption and emissions footprint of that building. And once that model's in place, we simulate a variety of different control sequences on the HVAC side against the needs of the customer, those parameters that we've set, and their goals. Whether that's pure dollar reduction on the utility bill, or it's more nuanced blend of energy and emissions. And so this can find that optimal point of the minimal energy usage and emissions without sacrificing their comfort or some other factors, perhaps the runtime of the equipment, trying to extend the life of that, expensive assets these customers have, for example. And I think critically the problem this solves is a way to make a building smarter that is really deployable at scale. So we had a customer with more than 150 donation centers across the country. Like a lot of companies, they have emissions targets as an organization. They had already invested pretty heavily in a lot of the traditional things. We're going to upgrade some aging equipment. We're going to get some efficiency out of our HVAC that way, but they were still looking for more. When we incorporated AI control into these buildings, they were able to see some results very quickly. But most importantly, that was able to be deployed without any changes to the infrastructure in the building. Therefore, they could quickly scale that to many of their facilities. Like a lot of companies with these emissions goals, after the first couple of years of declaring the goal, there's this little realization of, oh my gosh, we really need to accelerate this. And so being able to do a change like this across a huge number of locations with the different nuances of connectivity or other factors was a major advantage of AI control.
Okay. So not only do you have the best background, but you actually, I was timing this. I didn't mention AI. I never mentioned it. Took us 12 minutes for you to mention it.
I had to get it out of the way right away.
Firstly, all right. So in this building, I've got a building. You said there was no change in infrastructure. So, but I'm assuming you're assuming you've got to have a connected thermostat, lighting controls, things like this. Yes.
That's right. There's connected controls in these commercial buildings that do reach up to this cloud resident application. That's right.
Okay. And that was my next question. It's cloud residents. We're not putting on a server locally or anything like that, right? So,
that's right.
Okay. All right. So Stephen, listening to Marcus here, he's got his connected building. He's got all these things lying around that need connecting. He's got a cloud connection he needs. I'm assuming there's lots of people working in these. There's guests coming in and out. What would the network look like for that?
So I love this example because it really highlights one of the key pieces that we're talking about here, which is all of these pieces that make a building smart or connect this AI system from train. It all depends on data reliably getting somewhere in the building, right? So maybe in some locations it can be done with some wired network, but in a lot of different kind of environments, you have these evolving assets and this evolving need to collect more data. And I kind of heard reference from you, Marcus, on maybe like a digital twin kind of creation of these environments. And we see this with customers, ranging from manufacturing to hospitals to, kind of, just smart buildings of multiple types. And so if, as we're looking at it from, I'll say the private 5G space, we're seeing as we introduce cellular into these networks, there's a lot more reliability that's just inherent in the protocol. So, creating this infrastructure in the building that is cellular, that can support mobility, let's say in an agile manufacturing environment, be able to create this digital twin, collect data to power these AI applications that live either on the edge or in the cloud. All that can be powered by 5G. And I bring up 5G specifically because we think of wireless in a lot of these environments as Wi-Fi by default. But you definitely don't want these building applications or enterprise critical functions running on that consumer facing or even your IT kind of employee facing network. It needs to be a dedicated network. And so we look at it as, okay, how can I build a scalable, reliable, even data sovereign network that can then provide all this data into whatever applications, whether it's AI or other kind of operational applications for the building or enterprise.
Right. Good. And by the way, for the audience, we did have a prep call for this. I put some questions together. I'm an engineer nerd. I like things organized, but we didn't talk about which applications we're going to give here. So this wasn't scripted like Marcus is going to go first and say, AI in the cloud, and then Stephen knew what he was coming for. So this is a little bit off the cuff. So I'm glad it's working. All right, Jerry, you're up next. What sort of applications you're looking at? Those types of things.
Sure, and probably we'll go a ground up because a lot of technology is in the forefront with as the magic two letters of the alphabet A and I, or it dominated a lot of conversations. But a lot of times when we talk to our customers, they're saying, "Hey, we're still trying to save us money." That's the number one item that every single customer wants us to do for them, right? And there's many different ways to do that. So I'll kind of go up from a ground up. So with Siemens and our open protocol, whether it's cloud-based, it could be using edge devices, it could be on-prem devices going to the cloud as well, is we take a look at whether it's with our Building X, which is our single pane of glass, is it down locally using our automation system to bring all the systems together, right, into one intelligent ecosystem. And what does that mean? Is that air handler running when it's not supposed to? Do we bring it on to start when it's supposed to decrease demand charges, right? So we run trend reports. We look at what energy costs. We look at when people are coming into the building with security systems, tie that into a trend. Hey, how many people do you have? Do you need to control how much energy is being used for the right amount of ventilation and air changes? Look at the IOQ for the system and their air quality, right? And look at all those factors that go into the building and or sections of the building, and make sure those are running well to help reduce part of that energy. And then looking at from a bigger picture, we can look at daily, weekly, monthly, depending on the customer, is look at those trend reports in the moment in time. And that way something doesn't go out like we found. Here's a crazy example, but there was in Iowa, the trend report showed the energy use every Friday night was going up by 30%. Nobody could figure out why. Well, somebody went in the gymnasium because it was so hot in a gymnasium. They left all the back doors open in December, January, and February. And so it was heating and cooling at the same time, and energy was just going out. So sometimes it's not, brain surgery and what we do, but it's really seeing a report and taking action on it sooner, right, rather than later. So I know this is very simplistic, but keeping it so simple sometimes is the best in technology, because let's use that technology, the data captured into like an energy dashboard, and somebody sees that report and really being able to take action quickly in a rapid fashion, and whether it's remote action, local, but just working with the customer to solve that and just really bringing all those systems together as a succinct example. But you could go through each building envelope. Same way with power, right? Watching power. So what if you have a brownout or you lose power? Do you want to lose all the food and all the, in a pharmaceutical device, sometimes maybe that generator doesn't start up or the microgrid doesn't kick in, and you don't want to lose all of those important factors of medicines or it's food in the fridge for a school or a healthcare, whatever application it may be. So get somebody there as quick as you can to make sure you take corrective action. So a lot to it, but that's the simplicity of it.
So so I'm listening to this. The sensors I kind of listed off there was air quality, air handling, lighting, access control, security,
Right.
temperature. As you mentioned, right? What else? Door.
Yeah, because nobody really cares how the building is heated and cooled until they're hot or they're cold, right? And then
Right.
it's an emergency.
That's a good point. Yeah. Okay. So Brian, how do you connect Jerry's environment there from that point of view?
Yeah. Thanks, Jerry, for giving me some good stuff to work on there. So, Ian, to your
welcome.
point earlier, it is kind of nice on the spot to, come up with solutions, right? But just as Steven said, having that dedicated separate network that's off the enterprise network or the IT network or even traditional Wi-Fi, I think it is important for these processes, right? To be able to do these things, process these things. And what I find in working with IT folks, they like that. They would like to be able to have these dedicated, not off the normal employee facing or external facing network, right? From a security perspective, it's easier to manage. Plus it's dedicated. And we start looking at connectivity, specifically what I look at it from a cellular connectivity using 5G. 5G is great. It does a lot of great things for all of us in our cell phones. It's reliable. The response time and skew and delay and all that is fantastic. So it's going to be more responsive than you'll find on a normal IT enterprise network. So being able to do things like Jerry said within that school example and being able to respond, I think that's the biggest critical thing here is to be able to do something with that data. So that data is generated, it's there. Now we don't have to wait for somebody to go look at it, a spreadsheet or a log or some type of thing that comes out of these software packages, right? Now that could automatically, based on the rules, AI is helping developing these rules and make these rules a lot more refined. Now we can send out responses. We can send out it'll come to the facility managers, the facility person's role. They'll get a notice on Friday that, in the gymnasium in that area, the temperatures are changing, right? And using a lot of energy right away. And then that person can go see it, put their eyes on it versus, that was Friday. All of a sudden next Wednesday, you're finally looking at it, right? So that response time, I think, is critical. And then even morphing that to the public safety side of that school, the response time is also very critical, right? For a safety type reason. So by having that cellular network active, so the people's and person's devices are connected, whether it's through the private 5G or whether it's through just normal cellular connectivity, those folks are going to be connected and they can get that notice and they can respond and take care of that action all at once. And that just closes that loop, and being able to use that data to make those decisions, I think, is critical. And that's where that connectivity can help with that. To be able to get those information out very quickly, and having that right along with and complementary to the IT network, to the wireless network, to the wired network. It's all variations, right? So now we have, all of us are used to a wired network and a wireless or Wi-Fi environment. Now we can pull in the cellular connectivity along with private networking attached to that. And then now we have this network that we can use notifications and do something with that data much, much quicker. So that would be the good role of the making sure it's connected everywhere, every time, and every function.
Okay, great. So let's go, Stephen, I'll go first on you on this one. Three biggest challenges, would you say, for deploying a smart building application or network today? What would you start from?
Great. Yeah, I love this question, and I'll give you the three that we see most often in the field.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we look at projects in smart building or enterprise, the first problem that we see is if there's no single owner of the problem, right? And this is problematic in smart buildings and enterprise, where that you're touching IT, facilities, OT, and in some case in the building space, real estate and finance. So as you get these kind of committee driven decisions and it can create a lot of challenges to get something over the finish line. So, getting organizations to appoint a champion with budget authority can really kind of get these stakeholders rallied around solving this, this challenge that we see in some places. And the second item is, and we've talked a little bit about the network, is underestimating the importance of the network. So we talked a little bit about Wi-Fi being the prevalent wireless infrastructure, and people generally think it's good enough, because in our daily lives it is good enough for our non-critical communications, but it's not good enough for critical IoT or mobility or providing the latency required for these industrial and smart building applications. And so, as we're building out budgets to start to go and introduce these applications, need to make sure
Did we lose it?
Oh, we lose it?
It must have been the Wi-Fi network. Sorry.
Stephen, are you back? No? All right, let's do this. We'll come back to Stephen. Jerry, do you want to
Sure,
pick that
I'll
up?
jump in.
Yeah. So biggest
There he is.
challenges you see. Oh, he's back.
Okay. I have no idea what you guys heard last, but
It's like we lost you for about 20 seconds. That's all.
okay, cool. So I'll just make sure the second piece is just, bringing the application and the network budgeting together to make sure you're supporting the applications necessary. The last piece, maybe a little skewed towards private 5G, as it's a newer kind of piece, but there's generally been this kind of fear of complexity and cost for private 5G. It's expensive, hard to deploy. And this has historically been true until recently, right? With the introduction of CBRS, you don't need a license, you don't need a carrier to get started. The simplicity of these networks, the deployment and management costs have really brought down the cost, 3 and 10x in some cases. So I want to make sure that we're going through education on all the options and making sure to break down any barriers to complexity or costs that might prevent introduction of these new technologies.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, the connectivity issue.
Yeah, I was going to say. So, Jerry, top three. What are your top three?
Certainly. And if Stephen makes a lot of great points coming in, is there, who's the actual business owner, who's driving it, and is everyone that's in that silo within the organization actually in a team event? So does everybody moving in the same direction, right? So everybody may have a different mission, different goal, and is everybody connected? So that's usually one of the points that we have to get through, is to work through that challenges of priorities, whether it's between facilities, IT, the sustainability, security, real estate, et cetera. So we get everybody on the same page. Then after that, sometimes the second challenge that we see across the U.S. is there's a lot of existing buildings that are, brownfield sites that are doing move add changes because of leasing and et cetera. So there's a lot of brownfield constraints of, older systems of all sorts, whether it's HVAC, is it equipment, and et cetera. How can it all be connected? So sometimes you have to work through how we can connect all those ecosystems together to create one is the challenge. On a new build, it's not as challenging, because if you're in and ahead of the game, then all those things technically should be designed digitally anyway, from the bottom up, with all the right networks and smart building applications to get into there. Then the third is besides the interoperability and technology obsolescence within a building, so that's a nice segue for Brian to be able to chat to, is budgets. Budgets are constrained quite a bit, and I would have to say that's probably the number one, right? So if you don't have a good return on investment in that group that you're talking to up front, and then no matter how cool our technology is that we want to deploy, how much money we can save over 3 years, the first cost sometimes in a budget is sometimes a showstopper, unless we can walk through that return on investment with the leaders of the group and actually demonstrate a life cycle expenditure that makes sense for that business that we're presenting the change in. So.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was waiting for costs to come up and budgets. So Brian, top three. And by the way, I realize, as we go through the list here, it's harder and harder to come up with three, right? So Marcus is thinking, what's going to be left for me? So Brian, your three.
We'll leave you some tidbits, Marcus. believe so. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up cost too, right? So definitely a big part of the equation, if it's a CapEx type environment, right? Make sure it's included and making sure that it's included as in the beginning for a new design, right? Make sure it's part of that design. We're used to designing electrical, MEP, construction. We use all that, right? So the whole community is used to building buildings and they know how to do it. It's proven it works. And now we're throwing a layer on here that's part of that process. So it can be scary. So it's the how do you manage that from the design process all the way through the installation and commissioning and who does what? So now for me, it comes down to also the management of trades because now we're managing another entity along with vendors, and all of us with solutions and working with the different components of the construction process and trying to make that easy, trying to find that easy button. So I think everybody hears a lot of these conversations and say, yeah, I want to do a smart building. I mean, that should be all the information's there, the data's there, the reasons are there. Okay, I'm working on my budget. Whether I do a CapEx or I do as a service, as a service gets used a lot today. So it's a variable cost, which IT is used to. And then how do we format that to get the right cost structure in place? And how do I get all this done? Am I talking to 10 different people? Can I talk to one person? So I think that's been a barrier in these smart building applications because we all know it makes sense, but how do we get this done? How do we make that easy? And then that transitions into the return on my investment, whether it's a variable cost or it's a CapEx cost. Okay, I invested in this infrastructure, which is above and beyond what I normally would do in a building to get it open and running. Now, how do I look at my return on it? How do I leverage that return to show I am getting a return on this investment? And then thirdly, I got all this infrastructure in place. I went ahead and did it. It's really cool. How am I using this data? Is it too much data? What kind of data do I need to trigger on? And how do I process that? And how do I format that? So we got a lot of good software packages from all of us here and the other folks to be able to help manage that. But what is the right path to do that? So it really comes down to day two applications and how do I move forward and make the right decisions from there. So I mean, it sounds like a lot of things to process, but I think if we could find at some point the easy button to, okay, I work with this entity, consultant, manufacturers, and how do I make this really happen a reality?
Okay, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Marcus, three things.
Yeah,
three
first,
challenges.
At risk of becoming the AI guy here, I would say the first challenge is getting stuck on a problem. I'm sorry, stuck on a solution looking for a problem. I think that's more true than ever with AI coming into the space. And we hear things like, my boss's boss's boss said, use AI, have a nice day. And okay, that's tough. So for me, that's the first challenge that a lot of some folks are facing. Next is when evaluating these smart building applications, we see that it's hard to accurately represent the total benefits of these applications. They're not always quantifiable. I think sometimes there's a simple ROI. You do this, your energy bill is this much lower, really cool. But then sometimes you do that math and it's like 15-year payback. Whoa, yikes, what's going to happen there? Harder to measure is things like productivity in a team that manages a building. And sure, you could say, oh, they save a couple hours here and then maybe put some burden rate on that. But even that's not the full story because the real advantage is what they're doing instead because their time has freed up, what they're finally able to get to in their punch list of items they never touch because they're more productive based on a smart building application. So getting the totality of value captured when you're evaluating a smart building application is a big challenge. And then lastly, a little bit to those people that are running the building in the life cycle and even using it, and getting a productivity benefit to sustain the benefits over time of this smart building application is an entirely separate problem than justifying it and getting it running on day one. So many reasons we see these benefits fall off, whether it's the users aren't confident in it and either start to subvert it or not use it, or there's just building life cycle changes, the actual occupancy and the use of the building changes, or infrastructure, equipment, or other parts of the IT infrastructure change. Sustaining the benefits is the last challenge, I would say.
Okay, good. All right. As a reminder, we have a couple of questions come in. I'll deal with them in a minute. If you do have any questions, just use the Q&A tab or the chat tab, and we'll work them in. So this is great. A lot of discussion here. So next question. We've got an audience and people are sitting there going, you know what, I kind of see the benefit of this smart building. I could save some money and, all the benefits we've talked about. I can see the need for an in-building wireless network. How do I get started? And I was on a webinar a month or so ago, and I asked this question. It was a different subject, and somebody said, one of the panelists said, "Call me." So, but you've got the building, you're in the environment. Maybe you're the tenant, maybe the building owner, maybe whatever the situation is. Who do you talk to first? What's the first step to get it off the ground? Where do you start? Jerry, do you want to go first?
Sure. I do like that answer from.
Keep it to a minute.
I will. So I do like that answer from that guy from a month ago. So it's really, who do you have on you? It depends on your structure, who's taking care of the building. So you want to go to the facility team, the IT teams, and the structure, and then find out who are they teaming up with, who's their partners for their infrastructure. And really that would be the first call, right? So if it's a Trane, if it's a Siemens or others, that really is to get that team in and take a look at the evaluation of what is your next step you want to accomplish, right? Is it a smart building?
Right.
What can you do first? And really, I think the takeaway is do something small. Just get a win. Right. Because there's a lot of things we've all discussed a lot of things that every building can do, but just get something that is meaningful. And it may just be controlling brownouts or your water, or a decrease in some energy somehow from an existing system. But let's just do something small and get a small win, but use your existing infrastructure. Then if you need other assistance, then reach out into concentric circles to the professional team that everybody knows. Okay, good. Like that one. Brian, where do you start?
Yeah, well said. So, I think from an information learning perspective, I think it's good, like we're doing here today, right? It's a great opportunity to learn some things from, some experts. So that's where WIA and ASHB can, working together to do that. And all of us are members of these associations from a vendor perspective, right? So we're contributing to these opportunities and this movement for sure. All the OEMs and vendors are experts at it. So and when you look at the solutions they're offering, is definitely a good way to learn there. But I've seen the entry point be different from project to project, right? Whether it's from a systems integrator partner that's already doing work there in AV security or otherwise, and now this is just part of their offering to them as a service to be able to take these next steps to make smart building applications. So that's always been a common one. And of course, us as vendors and OEM solution providers has been an entry point. But then it also comes down to the design function. There's folks out there that are designing smart buildings using solutions from OEMs and using information from associations such as WIA and ASHB to build those design functions, which leads to that full design process. And then a system integrator is going to take it from there, do the installation, commissioning, and to be able to get that done. So the entry points I've seen have been different across the board, but it's been very common from the vendor side, OEM side, system integrators, and also the design function.
Okay, great. Marcus, where do you start?
Yeah, I'll take a little bit different approach. I certainly like, what Jerry said of starting with at least some trusted advisor that you're already using in part of your infrastructure, working from there. And I think, when that partner is someone who's truly trying to be a partner, they're going to help you articulate the needs, which I think is actually the first place to start more often than not, is looking in the mirror. How much can I articulate what I'm looking to achieve? I see plenty of cases where we get into these questions and it's, oh, that's not actually clear, or internally in our organization, we're not aligned on what these priorities are. And that can sort of put a roadblock in any of these processes down the road. So it's either looking in the mirror or it's looking to someone who's truly invested in being your partner, like a service provider you already have, to articulate those needs best.
Right. Good. I like that one. Look in the mirror. So, all right, Stephen, where do you start? Actually, we'll look at this from a private network here. Where would you start with that?
Sure. Yeah, I think going to probably echo some of the things already said here, but who do you call first? It's really going to be some system integrator, managed service provider, either you work with today for some applications or one that has already experience in the vertical you're trying to solve. And I think they're going to help you with a couple of things. I mean, one is help define the use case, the actual problem that you're trying to solve. build the right business case, look at the cost of ownership for different options, understand, what technology can help me actually solve this problem, and then make sure the business case makes sense. And the second thing they're going to do is help connect those applications and the network. Like I mentioned earlier, they really need to go hand in hand, particularly as you're building out this kind of system that's going to support use cases you define today, but also is extensible for the future. And so these SIs and MSPs can really help you do that, and then connect you with vendors that can help you achieve those particular goals. And I really liked what Jerry said before, which is, start small. Define 1 or 2 use cases that you can go and trial on one floor, one building, and try to get performance data, understand the real cost, and then you can move ahead with the full deployment.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to work a question in here, then we'll wrap things up. And I'm just going to read this one. What about the use of programs like Smart Score and Spire, SPIRE, and the Building Intelligent Quotient to benchmark the features and status of the BAS? BAS. Who wants to take that one?
And BS meaning Building Automation System for you.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. I learned something.
I mean, I'll take a stab at it. I would say programs like that can do a really good job of giving different stakeholders a measure of the maturity of a building. And sometimes that can be the realization to act. That can be the call to action. I liken this to maybe like Energy Star. Until you measure your building and have a sense for how your building is performing, you might just be in it every day thinking we're doing okay. But until you have a sort of third-party measuring stick, and like everybody's utility bill says, oh, you're consuming a little more than your neighbor, may want to do something about that. That's sort of a different way to represent it and give you a sense of where you really rank, and that can be the call to action to actually get any initiative at all.
So it gives you a reference point from which to start and where to improve from, right?
That's right. Or, just a grade, I might be trying to make a case to my organization. It's like, our building is a D+ right now in terms of performance. And I'm in here every day. I'm comfortable. We're getting an A. Well, let's go get scored independently here.
Right. Okay, good. Anybody else? No?
No, I think that the benchmark is important, as Mark has talked about, for all those things, and also too, as across the country, which is growing as the building performance standards, right, play a huge part into where your score is. So that's a whole nother topic, but you need that benchmark score to be performing well, maintain that, and actually improve your score for sustainability. So it's becoming much more important than just where are you or where are you not? You need to know, because if you're having to achieve BPS based upon what city you're in around the country, it's a major play.
Yeah. All right. Good. Okay. This has been great. We've covered a lot of ground here. Let's wrap it up. I'm a watch guy. And Brian, you're going to go first on this one. By the way, for the audience, the panelists know this question's coming. So what keeps you awake at night with regard to smart buildings, in-building wireless, and all the things we're talking about? I usually preface this with, you can't talk about the neighbor's dog barking, or, your kid has got some math test tomorrow they haven't studied for, or something like that. So Brian, 30 seconds. What keeps you awake at night?
I'm glad you clarified that. So thank you. Yeah, so no, I think related to a lot of these conversations, for me, it's really taking the cellular connectivity, private networking, and making that part of the conversation as part of the construction process. We're used to networking, structured cabling, MVP, all those great things that come into technology of the building, and same with the building automation systems. How do we make this connectivity part of it related to cellular and private networking part of that conversation, and moving it from it'd be a nice to have to a must have. To enable that building, right? More so than just the enterprise network connectivity, to add this layer on top of it for IoT, BAS, and all those great things. So I'm really, focused on how do we make that part of that conversation up front and not an afterthought.
Okay, good. 48 seconds. So way over 30. Marcus, go.
is ruthless. What keeps me awake at night, Ian, is that I see far too often these great smart building applications that rely on a pinnacle modern building in order to implement. And so what I really want to strive for is these smart building applications that can be applied at the average building or the below average building, because now we're getting into the meat of the bell curve of all those buildings that are out there. If I drive past 100 buildings, only one of them is modern enough to use some of these solutions. So I want to see those out in every building out there for a real lasting impact. 37 seconds I had myself at, Ian.
Oh, good job.
Yeah, well, it's actually 44 seconds, but you're still faster than Brian. All right, Stephen, pressure's on.
All right, so I think the thing that keeps me up at night is really education on the technology that's available today and making sure there's awareness of what you can use to solve problems. And so, you know, helping building owners and commercial real estate stakeholders understand, you know, the technology we're talking about today, private 5G, you know, it's not 5 years away. It doesn't require a huge building to go invest in this network. It can be done, you know, small, medium, large size, you know, global size entities. And I'm really optimistic about the ecosystem, the work that, you know, vendors, MSPs are doing, as well as, you know, WIA and ASHB to close that gap. So I'm hopeful, along with Brian, to say in the next 2 years, you know, 5G or, you know, cellular indoor coverage is not going to be kind of an add-on. It's going to be a standard building spec that we'll see adopted.
Okay, great. 50 seconds.
You got a winner.
Coming in third.
All right.
What keeps you awake at night, Ian?
Me?
I want to hear that later.
The clock on these webinars.
Yeah, the clock on the webinar. I think from an industry point of view, I would say, actually, I'd say spectrum. We all know we need more spectrum. We all know we need it for different reasons, you know, 5G advanced, 6G, et cetera, et cetera. There are plans working towards it, but it's getting through that process is complicated and takes time. And I think there's a need for spectrum when we need it to keep the growth going in support of all the applications, things we've talked about, versus actually getting it done. It's never as easy as people think, and nothing now is easy with spectrum because there's always the incumbent. So that's what I would say. But that's a networking argument.
Wow,
so,
48 seconds. Look at that.
I know. And nobody has ever asked me that on a panel and timed me. So there you go. All right, Jerry, you're up.
Good. So what keeps me up night is both talent and change management, right? In the next 5 years, we're going to lose a tremendous amount of talent. So how can we bring the digital value and understanding to the market at speed, and bring everybody together to where we implement before there's a vast exodus of the talent that is in the buildings, that will be implementing it and moving on from that. So we need to all of us continue that drive to implement all the technologies to get it in place, because it's the right thing to do. We don't have the energy in the U.S. to supply everything, and we do need to reduce our energy cost and save money for all the right reasons.
All right, very good. 41 seconds. All right, well, this has been terrific. Thank you, guys. We've cut a lot of ground here. It's a good discussion. I would wrap by thanking you. B, I would say that I know Stephen and Brian will be in Fort Lauderdale with me and the other WIA staff for ConnectX in 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks, first week in May. And Greg Walker, who is president of ASHB, will also be there as well. So anybody who wants to continue these discussions, if you want to help with a smart buildings person, Greg's going to be there. If you want on the networking side, then there'll be plenty of folks there as well, Brian and Stephen included. But thank you very much. This is terrific. And if there are any follow-up questions, please let me know and I will forward them to the correct panelists. But Jerry, Marcus, Brian, and Stephen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
See you, bye.